This podcast is sponsored by YSC Real Estate Group, offering a tailor-made service, versatility and expertise for all your real estate needs. Are you thinking about selling, buying, investing or having your properties managed? For more information, check our website, www.yscrealestategroup.com. We are passionate about real estate and we love to support local businesses. We hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Cheers.
What is up? We are episode number 27 now.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Jason Manarinter.
And I'm your host, David Liu.
And welcome to Behind the Business. We're going to be talking about, this podcast is about, what is it about, Dave?
It's about small business entrepreneurs, supporting local and just the trials and tribulations of startup and running your own business.
Nice improvising there.
Yeah.
If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you know what? Follow us on Spotify, and we're on all platforms. So today we have Chris Vu.
Yes.
Chris Vu with
what's up, guys?
What's up with VQ Optometry. Him and Gabrielle Ma are spouses and partners in the nearly 4-year venture of this private practice.
Mm-hmm.
Good to be here. Pretty psyched. I like the setup you have going on.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Took a lot of work to get it going, but
Yeah.
and that's something I actually want to talk to you about, working with your spouse. So
That's a big one.
we'll dive
Yeah,
into that
yeah,
because I work with my fiance, and
Yeah.
that'd be a good conversation.
Yeah.
First off, tell us something that no one knows about you.
I guess since we're on a business podcast, I figured I'd share. Not everyone knows, but my parents used to own a Kumon Math and Reading. So for a lot of us, minority kids, whatever, whose parents wanted us to excel, they'd throw us into Kumon. And my parents owned one, so I was definitely not very well liked.
Were you enrolled in it then?
I was enrolled. I had
Oh.
to help, make the worksheets. I tutored kids. I graded worksheets, and it was a pretty good venture for my parents as like a side hustle because my mom wasn't working at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she needed something to do.
That's pretty sweet.
So you were raised in Kumon.
I basically was raised in Kumon.
So you
Yeah.
were tutored.
Yes.
And he was tutoring.
Oh, you were tutoring too?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
crazy.
You know how some dads would do crossword puzzles or whatever, read the newspaper when they're on the toilet before we had phones. He would literally do Kumon worksheets to stay sharp because he's an engineer. So he would just do calculus worksheets, and you're like, oh god, it's the worst.
That's pretty sweet though.
Yeah,
I even try to do math now just to keep up with it.
it's good.
But it's like a lot of the stuff you learn in school, you forget about it all.
Yeah, and it's not all super applicable, right?
Yeah.
Like, the complex fractions and stuff you used to do, you're like, why? And then occasionally you'll run into it. You're like, okay, this is why.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have to deal with the imperial and metric system.
Oh yeah, for you to convert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think basic math is necessary, but all that,
Calculus.
and I remember they're like, you need to draw a graph with your hand on a piece of paper, like
yeah.
cosine,
Yeah.
whatever all that stuff is.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Algebra.
algebra, right? But I failed calculus, so
Yeah. I did okay in it.
Yeah. That was the one I was fine with. It was like
what grade did it Kumon go up to?
basically to grade 12.
Oh, it went up to grade 12.
It could go pretty complex for sure. Like so complex that you're only doing like, a couple pages worth of problems per session. So.
But it has helped you in, like, now, hasn't it?
I would like to hope so. I'm pretty sure my parents would like to hear me say that it did help.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll say yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, let's dive right into it. Let's get into the business. Let's talk about what you were doing before the business, how you got into it, and how'd you get into that, and what were you doing before?
So I was in optometry school in Chicago between 2013 and 2017. We graduated in May 2017. And in the last year, Gabrielle and I started dating, and then things became a little bit more serious.
Was there a reason why you went into optometry, or you just kind of...
Yeah. Like, how did you follow that passion?
It was one of those things that I had always had my sights on since I was younger.
Literally.
I was going to say had my eyes on, but it's because, I know. I should have done that. But I grew up, having bad eyesight, right? So I was used to going to the eye doctor, and then, the experiences that I had at that office.
I had bad eyesight.
Yeah.
I had
Still?
Still.
Yeah.
I'm wearing glasses, and I had laser.
Yeah.
Laser, yeah.
It sucks. I
Yeah.
had to get LASIK twice.
Oh.
I had to get an enhancement done.
I might actually have to talk to you about that, because
Yeah.
I'm like debating whether I should do it again or not. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared. Yeah.
It's not.
How was the second time?
It's faster. The
Oh,
healing time is faster for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I pretty much bounced back after like a couple weeks, whereas the first time, I think it took me like 3 months to fully heal.
Yeah.
So
That's something I'm thinking about. So yeah, we can
Yeah.
talk about that after.
yeah,
I thought
definitely.
about it, but I'm also kind of worried. Like,
You don't even wear glasses.
yeah, I do. I'm wearing contacts right now.
Oh.
You learn
Yeah.
something new about each other every day.
I wear glasses.
I didn't even.
I only wear glasses when it's like cloudy out, because I know I'm not gonna wear sunglasses. But if I'm gonna wear sunglasses, I wear contacts.
Didn't know that. Wow. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
always wanted to do it. So it was kind of one of those natural progressions. Like it kind of got onto the back burner a couple times. I was like, maybe I want to do something else. Because like the idea of working remote maybe and living in a Sprinter van and kind of traveling the country and living more leisurely was something that was appealing. But, that kind of minority mentality of like, got to do the grinds, this and that, whatever, make your parents proud. That was like kind of secondary. But yeah, optometry was in the back pocket for a while. So eventually came around to actually pursuing it.
That's pretty sweet.
And you did it in Chicago.
Correct.
So, were you born in Calgary or
I was born in the United States. I
Oh,
was
you-
born in
Anchorage,
Anchorage, Alaska.
yeah.
in Alaska?
Yeah. So very
Like
very
Alaska,
sim-
Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I've been there before.
Yeah.
A stopover in Anchorage.
It's a pretty cool town. It's pretty small. I think it's still like 300,000 people, maybe a little bit larger.
Yeah.
It's beautiful there, though.
Yeah, it is.
And you were how old were you when you left Alaska?
I was 18.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I spent my entire youth there.
Yeah.
Childhood and youth.
Was it cold?
It was. They do get a little bit colder than us, but because they're on the water, it feels colder. And then because it's like kind of Pacific Northwest, it has that cloudy Vancouver vibe.
Seattle.
Yeah. So it's pretty dreary sometimes, but it's a beautiful place to
Yeah.
live.
Lots
I want to go
landscapes.
check out the icebergs and stuff.
Yeah.
The glaciers.
Yeah, the glaciers and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're 18. Then you moved to
LA.
LA.
Mhm.
You moved to LA.
That's sick.
And
My favorite
was
city.
it just you or your family, or is this yourself?
It was just me. My oldest brother, who still lives in LA, he moved down in 2001 after he graduated high school, or 2002. And I kind of followed in his footsteps a little bit. I moved, ended up living with him, going to the same university that he went to, and just kind of honestly BS'd around for a while. I just kind of like casually got by, didn't really take university too seriously. And then I lived there for almost 5 years. And then I moved to Boulder, Colorado after that. I chased a girl out there. Yeah.
Boulder.
Yeah.
Boulder would be nice.
Boulder is a cool town.
Yeah.
I think that everyone should, like, if you go to Denver to visit, or if you go, skiing or whatever in the Rockies down there, you should check out Boulder.
Is that close to Park City?
No.
Oh, that's in Utah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's. I think that drive is like, maybe like 10 hours to
That's
Park
sweet.
City. Yeah.
Is it close to Fort Collins?
It is. Boulder is close to Fort Collins.
Yeah.
It's probably about a little over an hour away.
Yeah, I've been to Fort Collins a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So,
What for?
course, like a real estate course.
Oh, nice.
Probably like 3-4 times.
It's
Yeah.
a small town.
It's
huh?
a very, very small town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy that runs a course there called Ninja Selling, and
That's
it's
awesome.
based out of Fort Collins.
Yeah.
That's a pretty funny name.
Yeah.
But
Ninja
it's
Selling.
pretty catchy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're. When did you decide Well, I guess you went to school for optometry then. After
Correct,
5 years later, or?
So after I graduated university, I kind of started university a little bit later, like 2007.
Mhm.
Finished in 2011, and then I lived in Boulder until 2013. And while I was there, I was working for an optometrist. I worked in an optical the entire time I lived there.
Mhm.
And so, naturally I had a point of contact. I had the letter of rec and stuff like that. I studied on my own, wrote the test. And because when I lived in Southern California, there are 2 schools down there. And when I first moved, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to this school in Southern California, in Fullerton. And when I submitted my applications, I was invited to have a couple interviews at various schools, Chicago being one of them. And so I interviewed one in Oregon, outside of Portland, the 2 schools in Southern California, and then Chicago. And then when I saw the campus in Chicago and when I visited the city, I was like, okay, the schools all cost the same, essentially tuition-wise. And I was like, I might as well get a new experience.
East Coast vibes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sweet. I haven't been to Chicago yet.
It's definitely, I would say there's no better time, well, I mean, COVID aside, there's no better time to visit it. Like, the city is blowing up in terms of the food scene. The downtown districts are more innovative in terms of in that scene than ever. So
Yeah. The art and architecture too is
Yeah.
really crazy.
the music scene is off the chain there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really want to go there. Isn't that where Oprah's from?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I know Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Chicago Bulls too.
yeah.
So you're in school. How long did it take you to finish school?
It's 4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
4
It's
years
a
at-
full
what's it
4
called?
years, basically. The first summer's off, but then it's year-round after that.
Yeah.
And then I guess when you finished, when did you meet Gabrielle and then start like how did that all come about?
Yeah, so she, funny enough, like, she had applied to other schools, did the whole thing, and then on a whim decided to go to Chicago as well. I think she was originally going to go to, like, Philly or something like that.
Did you not know her at this point?
No.
Oh, and she went to Chicago too.
Yeah,
Oh.
so by chance, she decided to go to Chicago, and then we met then. I was still,
In Chicago.
yeah,
Okay.
I was still dating my ex at the time. We both moved out to Chicago together. And then, within the first year, became friends with that crew. Funny enough, it was
Calgary crew.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
all Asians. They were called the Canadians in school because they're all from Canada and they're all Asian. So
Was it Jackie and
Jackie went to school in Philly, but there
Oh.
was a couple heads from Toronto, one from Van.
Trina?
Trina was in the group as
Yeah.
well. Trina and Gabrielle were actually roommates in the first year.
Crazy.
Yeah, so,
So there's a bunch of you guys from Canada that all met in Chicago.
yep,
Nice.
yeah. So,
Canadians.
Canadians.
yeah, I know. It was funny because we all sat in one area, and then, like, the kind of there was like the jock-ish crowd that sat in the front of the class. But yeah, I mean, we were all super friendly. We were a great class, but yeah, I'm not sure who coined that term for the group, but it definitely stuck. Yeah.
And so, yeah, what happened? You guys started dating down there, or?
Yep. Yeah. In the final year, we go on these things called rotations or externships, and you basically have to travel to various sites within the country or even out of the country to pursue or just to have exposure to certain specialties. So whether or not it's contact lenses, eye health, like surgery and stuff like that, or pediatrics. And so in that final year, people are kind of moving around, and then we happen to be in Chicago for the first one. So we just kind of like, a bunch of people left. There was a small crew left, and then kind of hit it off around that time.
What did you guys specialize in, or like you mentioned, you guys had to leave if you guys specialize in certain. What do you guys specialize in? I guess, or is it everything?
I would say a small number of people will actually specialize in something. For the most part, like the most common specialty is ocular health or ocular disease. So basically just comprehensive. So, you basically see anyone that comes in your practice, you kind of know what to do when. So neither of us necessarily have a specialty. I would say at VQ Optometry, there's a little bit more of a bias towards, actually a lot more of a bias towards just eye health. But then there's also a secondary subspecialty with contact lenses, like nearsightedness control. And so it naturally just kind of went into that because of the population of people that we see. We see a bunch of people who are nearsighted.
Is it older population?
Well, it's a mix, but there's a lot of young kids, and then a lot of parents who are concerned about prescriptions going up, so they want to see what they can do to kind of mitigate that. So
I'm definitely nearsighted.
Me too. Yeah. That means you can see closer, but not far.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like an Asian thing from like?
Statistically, yeah.
Really?
Honestly, yeah. There's a big, like one of the biggest studies that came out.
Well, it's because our eyes are so squinty.
No,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
because we're always reading.
Yeah, we were made to study all the time, so our
It's
eyes
conditioned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird genetic thing. Like there are genetic patterns with different populations, and nearsightedness is.
That's interesting. I remember when I was like a kid, my parents were like, "Don't watch TV so close. You're gonna ruin your eyes."
Yeah.
And then I remember like this one time I was just watching TV so close because I wanted to get glasses.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck!" Now I'm like,
Yeah. You wanted to get glasses?
I thought it was cool when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
It was against the grain.
I resisted glasses for so long, and the teacher. I remember the teacher called me on, and she's like, "Can you read what's on the board?" And I was like, "I can't read it." And she's like, "Really?" I'm like, "I can't see." And then she had to like tell my parents I needed glasses. And I was like, Do you find right now though with like iPads and computer screens and stuff, the younger generation definitely is like their eyesight's getting worse?
There is a correlation with that. I mean, it's kind of hard to say right now because this is such a more recent advent, right? In how we're using our eyes. But
well, you got babies using iPads right now. That's
straight
crazy.
up. I mean, like, if they're like fussy, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, watch this.
And they have like those fancy handles and stuff,
Yeah.
where they're just like in the strollers. Not even like, they're like a year old.
Seriously,
And they got them. So I think there's a correlation for sure. There's definitely, we are studying it. There are a higher population of people who are nearsighted now than there were ever before. So it has to be a correlation.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, soon it's going to just be virtual reality. So
we're never going to see each other again. We're just going to have our own whatever reality that we want to step into. So
Do you think that you could strengthen the muscles though of your eyes?
there are ways to strengthen your eye muscles, or at least kind of work on them with certain deficiencies, but with your prescription, that's not really one. But we can mitigate it with like some medications or some lenses.
do you does eating carrots help your eyes?
They're good for your eyes.
They are actually good.
They
Okay,
are,
so
they
it's
are
not-
good for your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it won't make your prescription not go up.
Okay.
It's just antioxidants.
Yeah. Preventative. maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I've seen this, but I've seen it where like people, if they visualize it, they could make their eyesights better, just like by. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like I've seen it where like people meditate and like visualize and like they heal their own body. Like
I need to see who.
You wanna
who's
do
doing
I'll
some
send you the
studies?
source. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because I read this article before, like in Japan, the archers, they used to use like objects and they would just like focus on them to kind of train their eyes to be focused in that range.
That's
So
what I mean. Like you're working out your eyes to get better.
Yeah, but it's not like they're just thinking about it. And
Well,
it's
no.
all good.
Yeah.
They're actually doing exercise.
Yeah.
They'll put something like close and then they'll move it a little further back, focus on it, and then keep on doing it.
That
so
is a
they've
good
got the
exercise.
range.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, basically, a lot of kids don't have that kind of focus control.
Yeah.
And so, if something is, X number of feet away, kids will either under or over focus and
Yeah.
it'll just become blurry on either side. So there is truth to that for sure.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like
See,
like
there's some truth.
feudal Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They went fucking.
They were
wild.
ahead of the game, man.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Archery was crazy.
Hmm.
Same with the Mongols.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do we leave off here? You
You're finishing
met
school?
Gabrielle.
Yeah.
How old are you right now?
I'm 32.
32. So, and when did you graduate?
2017.
Okay, so about
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you guys met, and then, how did you guys decide to open up this business
So.
and be partners with it?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge move there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And like, were you guys married before the business, or after, or during, or yeah?
It was kind of all at the same time. 2017 was a pretty pretty crazy year because, I mean, like, we decided together that we were serious about each other not too long before moving back to Canada for her.
Oh, because she's
Yeah,
from here, and
yeah,
that's
she's
why
born
you
and
came.
raised here,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
So I was more or less a free agent. So I was kind of like had my sights set on the Reno, Lake Tahoe area, just for like having access to the outdoors and whatnot. And it's in Nevada, as a state. There's no state income tax,
Oh,
so you just pay federal tax.
damn.
And so that's like what, 12-13% or something like that. So in terms of compensation and quality of life, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. And then Gabrielle became serious, and then she was already in the works of starting a business, because that's kind of the goal. Like, what we're taught in school is like, hey, if you have your own practice, you will have the most freedom to practice the way you want to. Because if you work, corporate, which is a big part of the industry, let's say you're working for LensCrafters or Walmart or any of that, you have a lot more restrictions in what you can do, generally, especially in the States. So the idea is that when you have a practice, you get to do what you want. And because you're your own boss, you have more freedoms.
So they kind of push you in that direction.
They do,
yeah.
and it's good. It's good for the profession in general, because when you get to practice the way you want, you have a higher likelihood or a higher ability to further the scope of what you're doing. Because when you're restricted, you literally can't, expand what you do, even though you're trained to do it. So, private practice is generally good for the profession, and so. Kind of going back to it, when she told me, she was like, hey, I'm planning on opening a business in Calgary, and so either you're coming or you're not. Like, there's a fork in the road in a relationship, straight up.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I don't have to be anywhere. I'm not like set. And I like made sure that Calgary, checked off a certain number of boxes in terms of like lifestyle and whatnot. So it checked off enough of those boxes for sure.
What about the weather?
The weather is not as bad.
Well, I guess you were raised in
Yeah.
Alaska. Forgot
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
But the cold
Yeah.
still sucks. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
cold
Yeah.
Yeah.
is like,
At least you
not-
can get away from it. though.
Yeah, that's true. And it's pretty easy to. I mean, when you want, but I guess not when you own a business. But so we graduated in May, and then for the ease of me entering the country and getting, license and whatnot, I had to write the board exams in Canada earlier on in the year. And then, got all that taken care of, moved up, wrote the licensing exam in the province, and then basically just had the ball rolling on opening the business right away. So, like, as soon as we landed, we came back in June, and we were like, hit the ground running. It's like, okay, what equipment do we need to order? What do we need for the business? It was a pretty busy time. So.
And did you guys just plan it just to be you two?
Yes. Ultimately, it would be nice to have another associate on board, because that way we can reduce some of the time that we need to be there. That's ultimately the goal. But it was going to be us two. I still work at one of the satellite locations up in Cross Iron Mills with Gabrielle, but she's actually at the flagship most of the time.
Oh, so you guys got two.
Technically, we work out of 3. Gabrielle works at another one in Harvest Hills 1 day a week. But yeah, we're a little bit around the city.
Sounds like you guys have slowly expanded then.
A little bit, yes.
That's pretty crazy to have 3 in 4 years.
Yeah.
Crazy. What does VQ Optometry even stand for?
VQ is short for Vision Quest, which is affiliated with Gabrielle's business. In the family, they've had these optical stores, Vision Quest, for over 20 years.
Oh.
And so like, they had one in Edmonton. They have a few locations in Calgary, which is where we work out of. But that close affiliation,
So they were in optometry. Her parents were in optometry too.
Her aunt.
Yeah, her
Or her
aunt.
aunt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they've been selling glasses. They didn't work with doctors per se, or like, they didn't hire doctors to work out of there. They just sold glasses. And then, the idea of kind of having what we call a side-by-side in the industry, that's a good way to kind of consolidate everything for people, right? Even when you go to a lens crafters, oftentimes there will be a private optometrist that works with them, and then lens crafters and that private optometrist will work literally side by side to get people.
It's like a one-stop shop now.
Yeah, and it's more.
Is that what you guys
congruent.
do too? You guys
Yeah.
sell everything: contact lenses, glasses.
We don't sell glasses, no.
Oh,
So
no?
we just do all the services. We do the contact lenses as well. But Gabrielle and I were more focused. We want to do the patient care side. The glasses part. That industry's changing pretty fast, as you might well know. I mean, people have more options than they did before in terms of getting glasses. So
Yeah.
It's all online now too.
yeah.
Like the quick classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could just get a rendering of glasses on your face and order it.
Yeah.
and It's like
I've broken so many glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just kind of like, fuck, why am I spending
Yeah.
really expensive
Yeah.
on some glasses? But you're just going to fuck them up. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I get that. The model is changing.
everywhere though, bro. Everywhere it's changing, right?
Yeah.
Especially after COVID. COVID definitely catalyzed a lot of that rapid change more so. Like, I feel like before, in the past couple of years, people didn't ask about online as much, but because that whole model shifted, right? More people are relying on online to do any of their shopping. So like, hey, if I don't have to leave the house, if I don't have to interact with somebody, what options do I have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means the industry should be increasing the price of the inspection or the eye exams and stuff like that.
I do believe that that's in the works. It depends on where you live, but because there are enough people supplying that service, that naturally drives the price down.
Yeah, competition.
Yeah.
Totally.
Makes sense.
how is it working with Gabrielle?
This is the golden question. Yeah. It
Well, we were
was-
talking earlier because I
yeah.
work with Mel, my
Mhm.
fiance, and at the beginning I found it really hard, and you know, you're nodding your head.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So how did you guys like overcome that, and like tell us how it was at the beginning, and what you guys did to move forward from that, like the changes and stuff, right?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we first moved up and we're getting the equipment and the electronic health records program that we decided to use, it takes a while because you have all these developers that basically want to sell you a product, right? They're like, how can we efficiently run or help you run your practice? And the price range for that is so vast. But that aside,
Isn't the equipment really expensive?
it can be.
Yeah.
There is a fair range in that as well. If you want to get like the creme de la creme, you can be looking at spending over $120,000 on one piece of equipment that takes a really good photo of the back of your eye. But that one piece of equipment, takes up a lot of space, and you can get one that has a few other options for a fraction of that, like literally half.
Really?
So the disparity is big, but choosing the equipment, choosing how we wanted to, like the rough idea of how we wanted to do it wasn't that hard. It was because when I first moved up here, I didn't have status. I was still a visitor. And so getting married in Chicago before we left, like literally days before we left in the courthouse, that was a move that we made partly to expedite that. And we didn't hire a lawyer when we came up here in order to get all of that paperwork going. I just did it myself. I just used forums to figure out how to get permanent residency. But because I didn't have it, I couldn't technically work as an optometrist in Calgary or in Alberta.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to work as her front desk staff.
Oh.
So I was her lackey. I was like, the receptionist sitting up front, and she's like telling me what to do, as like the ball was rolling and she was seeing patients, and she's like hovering over my shoulder, like, Prince right here. Oh, you need to do this, and I'm just like, I'll turn around and look at her. I'm like, yes, and I'll turn back, and it's like that. Like that was pretty tough because she's good. She's a good manager. She's a great boss in terms of like how she manages her staff and what she expects. But being on the other end of that is hard. So, I kind of learned how to deal with it as we figured out what our expectations were, and then ultimately, as I got my license, we were kind of splitting the patient load. So we were, once it started to become a little bit more even, that helped.
How long did it take though
Power
for you
struggle.
to get permanent residence?
I submitted the application in July, at the end of July in 2017, and I got permanent residency by January of 2018. But I had a worker's permit by, I think, November, December.
Okay.
So that's when I was technically actually seeing, because I was licensed to see patients before that, but then Gabrielle would sign off the chart, basically. So technically she would have approved of everything I did, whatever. But yeah, getting over that was definitely an interesting part in the relationship, because also we had just moved back, right? And like our lives had changed so much. So we were both undergoing all of these changes. I'm meeting all of her friends from back home, all of her family. And so that transition, I'm not a stranger to moving, but all of that together and the stresses of opening a practice that you've never, something you've never done before, that can be pretty heavy, but doing good now.
That's very heavy. It's like a new life and going into someone else's new life in a new city.
Yep.
And starting a whole new business.
Yeah.
That must have been a crazy few years for you, right?
Yeah.
180.
Yeah. It's very much like second nature now. Like it's not something that we think too much about. And it's crazy how fast time goes, right? Like, it's weird to say that that was almost 4 years ago now.
Mhm.
But yeah.
How did you guys do your marketing and get your clients?
Yeah.
Opening like a new
Like, how do you guys get
clinic,
your, just like your leads or people coming in? Like, how do you guys? Is it just word of mouth or referral or?
It's mostly word of mouth.
Mhm.
One of the angles that Gabrielle used, because she's Cantonese, it was to advertise on the Cantonese newspaper in town. And so there was no post or anything like that. But basically, in the beginning, we would have people coming in holding the newspaper and being like, "Are you the doctor here?" and be pointing to the ad. And I'm like, I can't read that or anything like that. I'm like, yes, I see the logo.
Yeah.
You know,
That's us.
that's us for sure. And then word of mouth is big, and it's crazy because one of the things that helped is that with Vision Quest, the optical, because they don't have a doctor that works there, people have to bring their outside prescriptions to get glasses there. And so that means that they had to have gone to one place and then basically drive, because there's no other doctors on that side of the mall, on 36th in Pacific Place, and take it there. And it's because they've been a business for over 20 years, so they have some rapport in the community, so people have been going there for years. And so it was kind of easy, when people come up and be like, "Hey, I have benefits, I want to buy some glasses," and they're like, "You don't have a prescription, it's expired, whatever, you can go across the hall and get your eye exam there." And so that side by side thing was a very key part
Yeah.
in having that. Like, yes, word of mouth is big. We advertised, like I said, on the newspapers. We didn't do any radio advertisement or anything like that. And luckily, Gabrielle has a pretty big network of people here, so
Yeah.
it was pretty easy.
It's like a good funnel, just having that subsidiary just right across
Yeah.
the way, right?
It'd be hard to do without,
Yeah.
for sure.
Location,
Mhm.
location.
Because
Right?
Yeah.
I heard that a lot of like doctors' offices, like it's hard to start it up from scratch. Like they usually buy an existing practice that has like a clientele base and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But like starting one from scratch with like from the ground up is a lot more difficult because of the startup cost and the capital. It's capital intensive, right? So
And we've seen that happen. Like, we have friends who started up, friends of friends who started up, and if they don't have that advantage, then it's really difficult. One of the really more popular models right now in Calgary that you're seeing, and it's really big in the Sikh community, because I worked for a practice. I worked for a woman who has several kind of side-by-side situations, and one of them, it's like a pharmacy primary care practice, like where you see your regular family doctor and then optical or like optometrist all in one. And that way the people who go to the family doctor oftentimes are like, okay, you probably should get an eye exam. And then so there's this kind of symbiotic community that is really smart in terms of just overall health and wellness, right?
It's like a one-stop shop.
Mhm.
You need this. Let's go right there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Makes sense, right? That's kind of what we've been doing with our business, where it's like, oh, you need your properties managed now? We could do that.
Yeah.
You want an Airbnb? We could do that, right?
You need renovations, we can do that.
Or we have someone to do it, right? So I think that's really actually important for business to grow, is like that relationships with other businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, we all rely on each other in one way or another, right? I mean, even just as simple as getting someone out of the house. Like, I feel like now that restaurants are open again and people are out a little bit more, there's opportunity there. Kind of goes either way, but
Were you guys considered essential services when COVID happened?
yes and no. It was this weird gray area in the first lockdown a year ago. We were allowed to be open as emergency, like eye care. So if you technically, if you injured your eye or something like that, there was a network of people that would open their offices on different days to kind of take away the strain from going to the emergency room or whatever during that time. But
Do people like when something happens to their eyes and it's an emergency, do they usually go to you guys?
They should.
Oh, they should.
So a lot of times people will think that they need to go to the ER or something like that. Let's say, I mean, you get there's tons of welders and whatnot in Calgary, right? So, and like, you know, a lot of that, those folks who work in that industry. And if you go to the ER, generally your wait time will be like 3 hours or something like that to see the eye specialist. And then, so just like all this time that it takes, all of the risk that comes along with waiting when you have something in your eye is not great. So we generally tell people, you know, like, hey, if you ever injure your eye or anything like that, come in, see us first. A lot of people don't know that. But
no, didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot faster. I mean,
sure.
you can literally see any optometrist in town for an eye emergency, and they'll be able to manage it better than like the physician who's like, okay, just take some antibiotic drops or something like that.
Yeah, that actually happened to me. Like when I was a kid, we were me and my buddy were pretending to play golf in the backyard, and we were using like one of these like what is it? It's like a garden hose, you know, that looked like a club.
Yeah.
And when he I was standing right beside him, and when he followed through, he hit me like right in the middle of the eyes, and it actually cracked my eye.
Wow.
So my eyeball was like bleeding.
Yeah.
And I lost vision out of that eye.
Yeah.
It was just white for like probably a good 8-10 hours.
Yeah.
And then we went to the emergency, and they just sent us to an optometrist.
Yeah.
And then they did some like drops. They checked the eye. They said it was good.
Yeah.
And then the vision came back. But I was like, fuck. At that age, I was
Yeah.
like, man, I could have lost my
Yeah.
vision.
Straight up, you were pretty lucky.
Yeah. It was lucky because I was wearing a hat. So the hat actually took the brunt of the force
Oh.
first,
Yeah.
and then it hit me.
Yeah. That's gnarly.
Yeah. So that's my experience with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely come in to see us. I've pulled metal out of people's eyes more than, you know, than I normally
Really?
tell people. Yeah.
Does that like damage your eyesight? If
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like basically,
There's a piece of metal in your eye. I mean,
yeah.
How far was it?
A lot of times, so like the clear part of the eye, like where you get LASIK, the cornea, it's really sticky. So like, even if you're cutting metal, and like a part of it just flies in the air and is floating around, there's a pretty good chance that it can stick to the cornea, and it just won't go. And so like it won't penetrate your eye or anything like that. Like if you have a piece of metal that penetrates your eyes, yeah, we'll see you, but then we'll send you to the emergency room. But yeah, it's usually if it sticks into your eye or something like that, it basically will scar. Like it's just gonna scar. If it scars in your line of sight, yes, you will lose some vision. So
just a personal question. I've got LASIK eye surgery. Is it safe to get it again?
it is.
It is safe.
Yes.
Because I'm worried that I just don't want to risk going blind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like I'm like, I want it and then I don't. But I feel like I've just had this feeling like it's not safe, right?
Again.
Because aren't they
Yeah.
just cutting your eyelids open and doing something again?
Not your eyelids.
Yeah.
Not your eyelids.
All of a sudden, you have no eyelids.
No, but they're cutting something.
Yeah.
You got bigger eyes now.
Yeah.
The flap that they cut for LASIK. LASIK is a very
Do you guys do
specific-
LASIK?
No,
Oh,
we
no,
don't.
okay, okay.
No. But the flap, if you get LASIK, which is a very specific procedure, they cut like a good amount of a flap, and then they lift that flap, and then they laser it. When they do the second surgery, it's pretty easy for them to relift that flap
Really?
and then just apply the laser back on to again.
Does it heal like completely?
That is the risk. Getting it a second time. So when you get
Whoa,
an
see?
enhancement, yeah, there
Yeah.
is a little bit of a higher risk. There's more complications when you get it done the second time. So when I got it the second time, I had to get watched weekly for about a month because when you open a wound, imagine and then they close it, there can be stuff that grows around the opening of that wound. So that's what they don't want to happen.
Like scar tissue?
When was your second
In a
time
way,
that you
yeah.
got it done?
Almost a year ago now. So I had it done about 2 years ago, and then I had the enhancement surgery almost exactly a year after that.
You got it done in Calgary?
Yeah. At LASIK MD.
No issues, nothing.
No, they were just watching me for like that very common side effect that can happen after the second surgery,
Hmm.
but nothing bad happened after. No.
Interesting.
When did you get yours done?
Man, I got mine done at like 1920, and the
Oh,
guy was
that's
like,
why.
"Yeah, they're like, don't get it done.
Your
Your eyes
eyes
just
just
still growing."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I want this done." I'm like, I
Mhm.
was so stubborn, and they're like, obviously they're gonna take your money,
Mhm.
right? And so yeah, I got it done because I hated contacts.
Yeah.
I just at that age,
Yeah.
like I just hated contacts. I hated glasses, and yeah, I got it done. And then what happened was it was all good until I started doing mortgages,
Mhm.
and then I was like always on the computer, and then like it strained my eyes, and it
Mhm.
just gradually got worse. And then I
Yeah.
think now it's like okay,
Yeah.
it is what it is right now,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's been in the back of my mind for like I don't know the last couple of years because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm sick of these glasses.
Yeah.
My dog ate the glasses.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I like, don't want glasses
Yeah,
anymore, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then even boarding, like when I went skiing for the first time, I had to wear the glasses over because I don't have any
Mhm.
contacts anymore.
Mhm.
I had to wear glasses over goggles, and it's just
Mhm.
foggy. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just
Yeah.
like
it's big inconvenience.
just
And with
such
these
a-
masks now,
Yeah.
it's like fogging the glasses.
oh my
Yeah.
god, we're talking the math is like
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, back to the business here.
Yeah.
What are some things you've learned about business in the last couple of years, that you can share? Some like any lessons or anything or mistakes that you could have avoided.
I think one of the biggest things, and this is true for a lot of businesses, is just taking the time or being almost lucky enough to hire good help, right?
Mm.
So, someone who's reliable, who kind of knows your expectations in terms of like front desk staff or something like that. That's a really hard one because as soon as you put, an ad out on Kijiji or, Indeed or whatever, all these other platforms to hire, you'll just get a flood, right? And you'll even put in your criteria. And those people applying are just like shotgun. Just let me apply anywhere, even though I don't know what this is about or whatever, just so I can get a job. That's a really hard one. Taking the time to go through all of those resumes, and pick who you want to hire. That's a pretty tough process, but I would say go with your gut on that one. It's not always the best to try to find the person that you think is the most qualified, because depending on the job that you're having them doing, if you have someone who's overqualified, they might not be happy with the job, or they're gonna want more responsibility that you might not be able to give them, right? That's a one thing, but also some people might find it really helpful to get a lawyer in terms of all of the just legal small, like say insurance based stuff for us, all of the understanding with that. If you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask one of your colleagues. Someone else has done it before, say opened a business before. So, it's like there's no stupid questions, right? Someone is thinking the same thing, probably, if they're in the same position. So someone will likely have the answer.
Do you guys have a mentor?
No. In our field, there are people that you can pay who consult. Who can provide a lot of help. In our final year in school, we actually met with consultants who basically just gave us help pro bono, but I'm sure it was covered in our tuition. But yeah, there are consultant groups, there are buying groups, there are people in the optometric business who lobby for you. So they'll give you information. We have a governing body. They'll give you information if you need it too. So.
Oh, there is a governing body for you guys. It's just not like completely private. There's someone that monitors the whole.
Absolutely.
It's like dentistry.
What are they called?
There's two. There's one called our optometric college. That's one. The association is another one. The college is more in charge of the technical side of it. What we can and cannot do. The association is primarily our lobbying group. It's the people that speak for us, that people who make sure that there's advocacy within our profession kind of out in the community. But they're based in Edmonton, like most.
Oh yeah.
Do they like monitor the businesses to just see?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like there's, for us, they,
Is there an annual fee you have to pay them? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
exactly
Rika,
like
right?
us,
Yeah.
I just had to pay mine. My association dues alone were over $2,000.
Damn.
My college dues were, I think, were about $1,000, and then the insurances, depending on when you own a business or not, can either be about $1,000 or $5,000. So the fees are pretty high,
Yeah.
I guess, every year, but they basically keep you in check. You know, one of the ways that they keep you in check is that when you first graduate, within the first 2 years, they actually have somebody that goes through your charts. Like you hand them X amount of patient charts, and they make sure that you're doing everything up to code, basically.
It's like an audit.
Yep, they do audit you. And then at 5 years out of school, I think they'll audit you. So I think we have a couple years to go before they do it again. But yeah, they definitely check on you.
Interesting.
What advice can you give someone that's starting, like brand new, basically, if you were like you 4 years ago, right? Just getting into the business. What's some advice that you could give someone that is looking to start like the same career path as you guys?
I guess it goes back to just talking to people again. You know, Gabrielle had just written a recommendation letter for someone who just decided that they're going to the optometry school in Chicago. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. It's a little bit harder now with COVID in terms of just us having another body in the practice and people feeling comfortable with that. But it goes kind of back to the last answer. It's like, don't be afraid to ask people. You know, it doesn't hurt. You know, the worst that someone can say is no. But in terms of opening a business, yes, it's their job to like sell you a product when it comes to choosing the equipment or programs or whatever. But they do provide a lot of help if you ask them the right questions. You know, ultimately, like I said, they do want your business. But
how did you know which equipment was best for you guys, though?
Personal experience. So
In the
what we
field.
used in school, if we were familiar with what we used in school, there was a tendency to go with that kind of equipment. Cost is a big one as well. So one of the pieces of equipment that we have at VQ Optometry is refurbished. Works perfectly fine, but it was certainly a good amount cheaper than buying brand new. And then the electronic health records system that we use, Gabrielle had used before. So she already had personal experience with it.
Is that like a client manager, like a CRM almost?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that one's based out of Red Deer. They're pretty good people. They're like pretty on top of it. It's expensive, for sure. The cost of entry is very high with that one, but it's a good program.
Is there any last words or advice that you want to give about business or anything on how you got it going? And it seems like you guys are growing, and anything you want to share or piece of advice just for entrepreneurs or anything in general?
Well, I mean, you guys are obviously partners in business, right? So you have to really kind of listen to what your like wants and ideas or needs are in the business. So I think that's a big one. It's kind of one of those like interpersonal skills, right? Like just being able to listen to another person, especially if it's your partner, whether or not it's your life partner or business partner. But as cliche as it sounds, you know, trying to be patient with those changes is key in terms of implementing anything new in your business. And that kind of goes into the next part. Like if you are nervous or apprehensive about implementing something new or starting something new, just try it. Yeah, you know, there can be some pretty big consequences if it doesn't work. But like if you already have a business and you want to say market more on social media, if you want to try something new, just try it, you know? I mean, like if that has an opportunity for growth, why not?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people don't try new things but want different results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very hard to do new things, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, like an example with us is, people, or within any medical practice, is that for the longest time everything was based on paper, right? So someone's writing, like even at some of the places that I work at now, I'm still paper based. So there are some old school doctors who just won't change it because of the cost of entry. They're like, the system works, so I won't do it. But as soon as they do it, efficiency goes up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
huge.
Time is money.
How do you guys decide between you and Gabrielle if you guys like have a conflict or something of what to do next? Like, how do you guys
Resolve it.
resolve? Yeah, just communicating or like.
Well, she's the boss, so I'm kidding. Yeah, it comes down to what. Basically, after we talk, it's like, hey, like, what do you want with the business? What do you like? And I'm a little bit more hands off with that because this started out as like her passion project, right? Like this is how she wanted to do it. She has idealized the way that she wants to practice, very much so. I would say more so than I. And so, I'll usually just kind of like hear her out, throw in some suggestions here and there, kind of like, kind of low key. In our profession, we have to do a lot of continuing education, meaning, we have to, and I'm sure you have to have the same in your field, right? You have to like go to conferences and see what the changes in legislation and stuff like that is. And so we have the same thing. So when we hear good ideas on those, be like, hey, how can we maybe implement this idea in our practice? And it's just kind of like spitballing, right? Back and forth. Boom. Should we do this? Should we do that? And let's think about that later, kind of thing, and then kind of revisit it. A lot of stuff gets thrown under the rug, but
How do you guys separate the personal life and business?
we're lucky.
Yeah.
I would say that in our line of work, usually once you leave, it's easy to compartmentalize it. Be like, okay, you don't usually take your work home with you.
You're very lucky then, because
You
our
live and
business,
breathe.
like it's like at night, in bed,
Yeah.
in the morning,
Yeah.
in the shower, like
Yeah.
everywhere, right?
Yeah. You
But
have clients like emailing like, oh yeah, blah blah.
Yeah.
Here are I agree on the terms of offer. Blah blah.
Yeah.
And then-
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's nonstop.
So we're very
That's
lucky.
very lucky of you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
To disconnect, you guys could disconnect basically after work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Gabby not so much because she just, as a business owner, like as the primary business owner, she has to be worried about certain things, right? And she's also like the type of person that really, say if we had to make a referral to a specialist or something, she'll like be like, oh, okay, like really worried about those patients, I do as well, but I don't generally tend to stress about it as much.
Yeah.
So.
I get that. Where can we find you?
You can find us online at vqoptometry.com. We also have an IG page, same name, and also on Facebook.
What's the physical location?
We're at in the TNT, the old TNT at the Pacific Place Mall, across the street. Oh, it's in the Marlborough area. Kind of by the Canadian Tire and Forbidden City.
Yeah.
So now that we can go and eat dim sum.
I was just there earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so nice to go back to have dim sum,
Yeah.
right? Like takeout dim sum is not good.
Yeah.
Like also getting like takeout.
It needs
pho.
to be fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight off the steamer.
Yeah. So, we're there Thursday through Monday at that location, 10:30 to 6:30 on the weekdays, and then 10:30 to 5:30 on the weekends. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll have to come see you.
Yeah.
And
Literally.
I'll have to come see you. Get my eyes checked right before I
go for this.
Yeah.
I thought about it, but we'll chat about it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
coming
me
on, Chris.
on.
Yeah, thank you.